All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Golden Goal Fantasy Football Podcast. My name's Tom, and we're back. And my good mate Sam is alongside me. How are you doing?
Good, mate. What about yourself?
Yeah, not bad. I hope everyone likes the new graphics as well. I spent a bit of time beavering away during the World Cup to revamp things a little bit. Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Class,
I
mate.
can't confess to have spent hours and hours looking at Sky. But this is partly the reason we do this pod, isn't it? To try and help ourselves as well as much as other people. So hopefully we can get through some good stuff today and help us pick a good team.
I think you've done a sterling job on the graphics, mate. Really, really impressed. You've got all the sky colours and all sorts going on there, so that's great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what I've got to show this week, just the fixtures. I think I get really confused by the game week counts because Sky it's very different to FPL, isn't it? I think we're on game week 21 in Sky now. So I've got the fixtures for game week 21, a bit of overall analysis from FF stuff. Well, I've taken the fixture grid from FF stuff and we can have a look at some of the fixtures there. And then there are some single game days, but I don't think there are any major killers, but I've got that. And then I thought we could pick an overhaul squad together, Sam, to help anyone that might be struggling. And if we pick a team together, that might help us have a think as well.
Yeah, I'm the same as what you said earlier. I actually sat down last night and did my first kind of look at the fixtures and some players and stuff. So I think it'd be quite helpful to help me get my team set up and in place.
Awesome. So we can start then by having a look at the game week 21 fixtures. So most of the games being on Boxing Day. We start with Brentford, Tottenham, Southampton, Brighton, Leicester, Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, Palace, Fulham, Villa, Liverpool, and Arsenal, West Ham. Do you have a captain shout on that day? Who are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you get to see the Tottenham lineup. So if you fancy like a Tottenham, I've got three players in that forward line of Tottenham at the moment that I'm debating, and I might go with two of the three. It's Kulusevski, Son, and Kane. I don't know what the state of Harry Kane will be coming back from the World Cup and Son for that matter, but I think there's some good options there. I think for me, having seen Mo Salah take a massive break over the World Cup period, kind of having almost like a pre-season, I think that's where my armband will probably go. And I'd imagine by you nodding there, Tom, you're on similar thinking as well.
Yeah, I don't think I can ignore Mo Salah. I think historically he's one of the best fantasy football players in any game. And yeah, like you say, I think the two outstanding for me are probably Kane and Salah. And yeah, Kane after the World Cup, I just don't know what we're going to get from him. Obviously, he missed the penalty, which is going to really hurt him, I think, mentally as well. Hopefully, he can get over that hurdle. But he looked quite leggy during the World Cup as well. There were games where he just looked really tired. Hopefully, he's had enough time to recover now. But yeah, I just got a feeling there might be a bit of lingering fatigue and feeling sorry for himself a little bit.
I think that's his demeanour, mate. I think that's how he looks when he plays quite a lot of the time. I thought he had. Obviously, this is a game of opinions, but I thought he had one of his best major tournaments I've seen from him. I know that the penalty miss was disappointing, but I thought his overall play was really, really good. I don't doubt for 1 second, though, that we might not get the best Harry Kane on return for the reasons that you've said. I sort of like Son. Like Son's bound to explode at some point, and if you want to win this game, sometimes you have to take a risk and go against the grain. And Son really can go nuts, can't he? We saw that at periods last season. In fact, he was pretty consistent last season, but periods of real explosiveness. And I sort of think Son's going to come good at some point. Whether I should take the gamble and start with him, I don't know. But I think he's a really good shout as well if he starts.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Yeah, we'll pick an overhaul team to look at any of the other teams we might be interested in then. So just thinking captaincy-wise, Tuesday 27th, got Chelsea at home to Bournemouth, and then Man United at home to Nottingham Forest. Any thoughts there? You going with a United player?
So what I was loitering with yesterday is starting with Kepa in goal and also starting with Reece James. Again, a little bit of a risky punt, but knowing that he's got an explosive return in him. I think he's got two really nice fixtures, and then he's into City, isn't he? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that's the.
We'll have a look at that. Yeah,
that's the case. So I've got half an eye on Reece James, and again, I'll get to see whether he starts because it'll be um, first fixture of the game day. He also played 60 minutes yesterday in a behind closed doors friendly, didn't he? Um, but I also think my latest Sky draft, I think I have Rashford in there as well. So he's a good shout. But I think if Reece James is starting, I'll go with Reece James. I think it's worth noting, Tom, that Kai Havertz scored a hat trick yesterday in that friendly as well
Okay.
against Brentford.
I was quietly eyeing up Wesley Fofana as well, but unfortunately I think he got another injury in the friendly that he played, as did Mason Mount as well. I know Mason Mount is historically really good against like low level. I'll say low level. It's a bit offensive, but yeah, lower level teams. Like he scored a hat trick and a brace against Norwich last season. I think I remember. So I was going to suggest him as a decent option against Bournemouth, but I think he's got a calf strain or something now. So yeah, I really like the Reece James shout, mate. I think Chelsea. I saw FPL Salah tweeted just before we went live that I think Chelsea are on a 50% clean sheet chance against Bournemouth, so that looks really good. And I've had Kepa in some of my drafts as well. So yeah, I think Reece James could be a really good captain on Tuesday.
You just sort of think with Chelsea, like I like to think I really do rate Potter as a manager. Well, I mean, this is going to really test him, but you're just going to think he's going to get it sorted at some
He
point,
has
isn't
to,
he? And
yeah.
with a return of a player like Reece James back from injury, he's only going to bring sort of defensive solidarity and also that offensive ability as well. And I know, as Liam Dorian's pointed out many times to me about Reece James, he's not a bonus magnet, but I'd pick him purely on the fact that he can get you a cleano, but he can get 2 goals in a game. That's like not unheard of for Reece James at all. And I just sort of get drawn to that against Bournemouth, which is a bit of a plum fixture at home.
Yeah, really like it, mate. And then I'm guessing, well, Wednesday the 28th, I think is quite easy. Do you think you're brave enough to go against Haaland on Wednesday?
No, I'm going to go with. I think what I'm going to do is in my overhaul team because I want to make up a bit of ground. So I'm going to go with the just kind of stone cold starters that are just no brainers, and I'd put Haaland into that no brainer category, and then try and loiter around getting some picks in and around that don't. Because if you leave Haaland out and he just goes off, which we know he can, he's done it all season already, right? Then you just left in the dust, aren't you? So I think Haaland's just you have to go on Haaland that day. It's just who else you have in that City team as well is the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be one of the Twitter questions I think we have to answer at the end. But yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the... Go on, mate.
No, you finish, mate. You go for it. I got a question
I
for you.
think I pretty much did. It's all good.
What do you think the state of the United team's going to be on return versus Norwich and Nottingham Forest that day? We don't get to see the lineup. Obviously, we'll see rumours, but there's quite a few players involved quite deep into World Cups with Manchester United, particularly along that back line. So, like, what are your thoughts there?
I've made a few FPL videos during the World Cup as well, and I've basically said I would be avoiding any Man United defenders. I don't think I'd be going anywhere near them. Varane and Martinez played in the World Cup final. Martinez is currently in Argentina celebrating on a bus. And Varane, I don't know if he picked up an injury in the World Cup final, but they subbed him off and he looked properly like he'd emptied his tank. So I don't know if he's injured or if he's just fatigued, but I saw a tweet from a Man United source saying they're not going to be back until later next week, so they're going to miss the Boxing Day fixtures. And I think without Varane and Martinez, Man United are just rubbish defensively. They're back to what they used to be because it's going to be Maguire and Lindelof. So yeah, I don't think I'll touch them defensively. Bruno, I think obviously now Ronaldo's gone, he's going to be taking the penalties, but he's been playing in like a centre midfield in a 4-3-3. I'm just not sure like he gets enough attacking returns. I think he's only got 2 goals and 1 assist this season. I'm not sure that's the stats of someone that I'd want to captain. Rashford, I think, is a good shout. I don't know if he plays up front or whether Martial will, but I think both Martial and Rashford will play. And could get amongst some goals, but I'm just sceptical about Man United. And hearing you say about Reece James, I think I might just swerve them completely.
Yeah, I've had a couple of different drafts that I was playing around with last night, and a couple of them involved Rashford, but a few didn't involve Rashford at all, and I could see myself going without United at least for now, and then maybe looking to bring in once they get a return of Martinez, Varane, all that sort of those sort of players, and we'll see if they can continue kind of the good work that was going on towards the end of before the World Cup.
Yeah,
Because you were looking much more solid, weren't you? There's no two ways about it.
we were, but only when Martinez and Varane were playing. I think there's a really key stat. I think Varane is the real difference maker in that defence, because Martinez and Maguire isn't very good either. But yeah, Varane is the real difference maker. We start keeping clean sheets when he plays. So yeah, just up to see how fit he is, really, I guess.
Yeah.
What else? I think that probably covers us for the near-term Game Week 21 fixtures. Next thing I had to show was just the FF Stuff fixture grid. It's quite small on my screen here. I don't know if you've had a chance to do any fixture analysis, mate, but are there any teams there that are shining out to you with good fixtures, maybe some 3-for-1, 4-for-1 opportunities, etc.?
I've not looked at any of the 3 or 4-for-1s, but I did actually watch your fixture run FPL video yesterday to help me decide on my team. And the thing with it there was, Tom, I think the takeaway was it's just all the usual teams, isn't it? In terms of defensively, anyway. Kind of Chelsea have got a good run. I know you were talking about double game weeks and stuff for FPL, which is a bit different for Sky. Liverpool, although it appeared to be like a mediocre kind of run, it's still a good run. Exactly the same for Manchester City as well. So it's kind of the usual suspects, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think I'll definitely be going forward with a Man City defender. I think the question is who. Still, like, I know Arsenal have got some difficult fixtures, but they're top of the league, so I don't think I'll be going without one Arsenal player. I think I'll have at least one. Newcastle, I think, wouldn't say they're completely fixture proof, but they've got some decent fixtures there. I think Trippier, Shah, Almiron, all good options. Who else we got there? I think on paper Southampton have the best run of all teams, certainly for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, but I don't think I'd be going anywhere near their assets. I don't know if you saw Shea Adams for his hat-trick last night, absolutely bottle a chance. It's quite funny to see, well, I don't know, this is quite a strong opinion of mine, but I just don't back him at all. And I think people are picking him in FPL, and I think some have had him in Sky as well, but he's just not proven anything to me over his career so far to be picking him in fantasy football.
No, he does get the odd. He does get goals, doesn't he? But it's like it's not as clockwork as a Salah or a Haaland. Hence why they're a cheaper option. I just haven't seen anything from any Southampton assets from a Sky perspective that really intrigues me. And so it's a solid. It's a hard pass from me as well. I think the key thing in the fixture grid, Tom, is we all know the good teams to rely on. Like everyone who's engaged manager knows where to go. It's just looking for those kind of fixture gains, really, isn't it? And 2 and 3-for-1s, as you talked about, which most people can just go and find by selecting it straight from the horse's mouth there, which is ffstuff.co.uk. And all it takes is a couple of minutes on there, and you'll have snuffed out kind of fixture gains and daisy chains and all that sort of stuff.
I guess the question, based on these fixtures as well, is: are you planning to make too many transfers? I mean, there's not many. We'll show it in a second, but just heads up, I don't think there's that many worrying like single game days that you need to cover. Right. I think you could probably go the first almost 3 or 4 weeks of the game without even making a single transfer.
So I basically pulled up all the fixtures on my draft yesterday. Just had them all sort of screenshotted whilst I was picking my team. And I tried to pick right up until pretty much up until that Sunday, the 26th of February. So like the 2 months that they've got penned in there. But it's not that I'm massively forward planning there. It's exactly what you just said. There's really quite nice single and double game days where there's a Chelsea or a Liverpool or a Tottenham or a City involved. I think there's a couple of games there, isn't there? A Leeds and a Villa game that could potentially throw up like a transfer or two. But again, I can't see myself making huge amounts because of the fixture run that's basically set up there. I should just be able to, carry on my business and make moves for different reasons, injuries or, daisy chains or all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of single game days, I think I pulled up all the single game days that I could spot in January and February. Apologies, they were in time order, but I mixed up the last two. It's looking like, well, there's one Leeds Man City, but I think if you don't own a Man City player, then you're probably missing out. So I think everyone will be covered for that. Thursday the 12th, it's Fulham Chelsea. So yeah, I mean, who do you think's in a Fulham Chelsea game day? Who's the best captain? I think probably either a Chelsea defender, Mitrovic, Polinia. There's quite a few options. Friday the
Yeah.
13th with. Oh, sorry, mate.
No, no, you bang on that one. I mean, Mitrovic is a good shout, but if you've got like, I wouldn't like to go into that with just Reece James, given his injury history. But I think as I'm looking to start potentially with Kepa as well, that's a nice fullback there. And if neither started, I'll be more than happy to bring Mitrovic in because there's an option on the 24th of February there to captain Mitrovic as well. So I think most people won't have any issues with filling those slots, probably from the off.
Yeah, and looking at Friday the 13th, convenient day to have a really rubbish single game day on. It's Villa and Leeds. I'm not too bothered about covering that one myself at the moment. I think it's just a wait and see on Villa how they play under. They got a new manager. Oh, of course they do. They've got Emery, haven't they? I think it's a wait and see just to how they play the other side of the World Cup under Emery. And same for Leeds, really. There's not I don't know, the likes of Tyler Adams, etc., doing all right for points, but there's not a standout option from Leeds, I don't think.
No, you've got that Somerville, haven't you? Who is definitely been quite consistent. He's 6.3 million midfielder, and he had a goal against Fulham, goal against Liverpool, goal and assist versus Bournemouth, and a goal and shots tier versus Tottenham all in a row. But of course, we know with those sort of midfielders, and especially ones like that, it really is feast or famine. And we could be on, he could move into famine and off his mean and back into the normal again. So, yeah, I wouldn't go in there with a hope that he's going to get a 20-point haul or anything like that. I think there's a case for I'll sort of shout out Luke here, Luke Notley for this one. They made a good case for Danny Ings. He's looked pretty in the very short time under Unai Emery. He got a couple of goals, didn't he? On his return to the Premier League. That's the manager that is, and he could potentially be a nice outside option for that night. But I don't think if you want to sort of bypass that, I wouldn't be against that at all. I don't think you have to cover that particular day, Tom.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And then the final two, Friday 3rd of February, another Chelsea-Fulham clash. And then Friday the 24th, we've got Fulham against Wolves. I think just the fact that they've got 3 single game days, I do think Mitrovic is probably worth picking, to be honest.
Yeah, and equally, that's a great shout, isn't it, for a Chelsea player with 2 individual game days as well. So my thought process of having Mitrovic and also Reece James and Kepa is probably justified by that. I think there's probably also a shout there if you want to have a good enabler to go for Polinia again.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he's a fullback captain on any of those nights should Mitrovic, James, Kepa, etc. dropped injured, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, you're right there, Tom. I think that's kind of good justification to have those players. Saying that, we've got, yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? You could start with Mitrovic and then jump off potentially and then jump back in because it's the first one's that Thursday the 12th and then it's nothing then to the back end of February. Oh, no, this is the third course because you got that the other way around. But yeah, I mean, there's still an option potentially to jump off him if you didn't want to stay on and then jump back in potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. I think that covers us nicely for the fixtures. Just having a look at the chat as well. If you're watching the stream, feel free to say hello in the chat or what have you. We've got FPL Spartans wishing us a happy Christmas. So thank you very much, mate. You too.
Yeah, and to you, mate.
What I thought we could do next, mate, was just pick an overhaul team. We're in the overhaul. Why not? We did it for the international game, and I think it really helped me just get someone else's opinions on players to pick, etc. So I thought we could do the same for the Premier League game.
Go for it, mate. I'll have some fixtures up, and then we can pick away, can't we?
Unfortunately, there's no way of getting rid of the players that I had in the team before. So this was a draft I put together, probably a week ago or so now. So the players are all greyed out. So yeah, what are you thinking in goal? I had Kepa in this team originally. I think you've mentioned him already as well. I quite like him. He's nice and cheap.
Yeah, he's nice and cheap. And then if we go back to that graphic earlier of the kind of single game days, he's just a nice fullback option there, isn't he? And if there's a cleaner, it's an 18 pointer. So I think if he's going to keep his place, he's a bit of a no brainer.
The one caveat I would suggest is that he didn't feature in the friendly they played last night where Fofana and Mount got injured. So he's definitely one to monitor. But
Is he carrying a knot?
He's got like you probably know this better than me as like a PT, but he's got like a heel injury. I think it's quite like I don't know if it's a bruised heel or like a small break in his heel, but it's just a lingering like heel injury I think he has.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is one to monitor for sure. What would you have any ideas on who you go in goal if you didn't?
I think I just picked Danny Ward.
Just go cheap and then spend the money out elsewhere.
I think so. Yeah.
They've improved Tom as well defensively, haven't they? Leicester. He went from the worst performing goalkeeper to the best performing goalkeeper in FPL, didn't he?
Yeah, it was almost like magic,
isn't it?
Yeah, so I think let's go with Kepa to start, and then I think our backup would be Ward, wouldn't it? I think that's very sensible.
Yeah, happy for that.
We mentioned Reece James, so shall we stick him in straight off the bat?
Yeah, I think it's just making viewers aware. Obviously, they can come to their own conclusion, but I think Reece James is a bit of if you want to err on the side of kind of aggression a little bit and take a little bit of a risk because he is a bit of an injury risk. He is going to be managed. He's not a massive bonus magnet, but what he does have in his locker is massive explosive ability, and that's what I like him for. I feel like this is one that's either going to come off with bells and whistles or it's just going to absolutely tank. But you have to be in it you have to be in it to win it with those sort of punts, don't you? So I do really like Reece James at the moment as a kind of explosive captain option for some of those Chelsea get days.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. We were also mentioning about good fixtures, and well, I don't think you can't mention Man City. Are you liking the look of Man City defenders yourself? Are you going to go for 1, 2? What are you thinking?
So at my current draft, I've got 2 in. I think, judging via the way that the draft was developing, that I might have actually taken 1 out. I did have Laporte and Kyle Walker in. Laporte, because I think when he's fit, he's nailed. He's actually a good attacking option. He's like passing is just standard for him, isn't it? And he actually makes that Man City defence better. I think he's their best centre-back. So I really do like him when he's fit. He's in there. I think you've got a higher chance of clean sheets. But I think if I was just going for the 1, I think I'll go for Kyle Walker.
Okay. Let's go with him. And
the reason I say that is because he's picked up more passing bonus this year. Or the new year's throwing me off, mate, because I'm like acting as if we're already in 2023. But he picked up more passing bonus this season when he's been fit than he has done, by the looks of it, previously.
Yeah.
So obviously the caveat with Kyle Walker always was, well, it's a 7-pointer rather than a 9 or 10-pointer. But he certainly had more passing bonus. So I kind of like Kyle Walker as an option as it stands right now. And I think when he's fit, he's nailed, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Before because he got injured before the World Cup, didn't feature for Man City before the World Cup, but I think he pretty much played what you can see there. So how many fixtures is that? 1 to 8 fixtures. So yeah, he started pretty much most of the games. He did miss a couple. Oh no, sorry, no, he played against Newcastle but scored 0. So he missed one of, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he played 7 of 8 fixtures before his injury. So I think that's a pretty good indication.
I feel like obviously Cancelo's a great shout, but when I was having a play yesterday, I wanted to use that money from the sort of downgrade of, say, Cancelo to a Walker somewhere else. Again, I know how much of a good asset he is, and it might bite me in the ass later on. I don't know what your thinking is regards to Cancelo.
I don't know. I think that's with this particular draft, and I think with mine as well. It's just how much money I have left in the bank. I think which Man City defender I pick depends on how much I have left.
Yeah, sensible.
I saw your message there, Spartans. I saw it on Late Riser's Twitter account. He said that there was no Kepa news. So that makes me think that he didn't play and there's no news about him. So it's just one to monitor. Interestingly, greyed out in this team at the moment. I quite like him myself, but it's Fass from Leicester, Face or Fass.
Yeah.
He's just a little bit more than, well, obviously Saliba is probably the pick of the 7 to 8 million defenders, but I think we have to bear in mind that with Saliba, he's probably not going to play. I don't think he's definitely not going to play on Boxing Day. So if you pick Saliba, you just got to take it on the chin that he misses a game.
Is Saliba also one yellow card off a suspension? Is that right?
He is, yes.
Yeah, so there might be a rationale to, because I had Saliba in my initial draft and then realised both of those things and then took him out. So he could be one to bring in for later on, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Fofana would have been a lovely shoe in there, wouldn't he?
Definitely. I think he'd have played regularly. I'm a bit worried about Fofana just in general, to be honest. He's just picking up these injuries all the time, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, mate. Someone so young as well.
Yeah, what are you saying about Wout Fass? Are you happy to go with him?
Yeah, Leicester have been much more solid defensively. They've got what's their run? Is it any good?
So it's Newcastle, Liverpool, Fulham, Forest, Brighton, Villa, Tottenham.
Yeah, so post Liverpool, it's kind of all right for a few games.
And he has been amongst the passing against some teams. Bit of tackles here and there as well. A few 10-pointers. I think he looks pretty good.
Yeah, go for it, mate. You have to have a cheap enabler or a couple of enablers along the way. So I'm more than happy to have him in there.
I think what I'm going to do, because I think they're pretty much locks, is I'm going to tick in Salah and Haaland as well, because I think they're pretty much locks for both of us. Yeah. So we've currently got Kepa, James, Walker, Face, Salah and Haaland. So 3 defenders. Probably could do picking some midfielders. Any midfielders sticking out to you at the moment?
Are you keen to jump on the Almiron bandwagon? I mean, he is £7 million. It's super cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, he was in this team before I made it, so I'm happy to go with him again. Yeah.
They just look, he's 7 million. They just look a really good outfit. He's really hauled this season, Tom, hasn't he?
He's absolutely smashed it. Yeah. His last, he blanked once in his last, 8 games? And that was against United in a 0-0 draw. But the rest of them, he's either scored more than one or got an assist. So, yeah, he's looking really good. And his fixtures are decent as well. He's got Leicester, Leeds, Arsenal, Fulham, Crystal Palace, West Ham and Bournemouth. That's a decent run as well.
Yeah, and it's a great price. So it's like another enabler in there. So I'm totally happy for that.
You mentioned Polinia. I've got McAllister greyed out in this one, but I think just the fact that McAllister isn't going to play the first game. Let's see if he's red flagged. Why he's red flagged a second. I think he might just be red flagged because I can't actually click on him. That's annoying. Bear with. It won't let me pull up McAllister's player profile, unfortunately. The game's frozen. But I think it's just he's a doubt because he's going to miss the game because he got to the World Cup final. So I think that's okay. In terms of midfielders, we mentioned Polinia. Do you think he's worth a go?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe we should build a few of the other positions because I don't think I'd have him in if I didn't need to. In terms of is 2 enablers enough? Counting our enablers as Almiron and the West Ham lad, but we might need a third enabler, and then we can have more premium options. So I don't know if we just leave it for a second. And I mean, who do you see up front? Do you just see us going in with Harry Kane and Mitrovic?
that's what this team had. I'd like Mitrovic. I think you almost have to go with Mitrovic, but with Harry Kane, I could take it or leave it really because I don't think you need him for a captain.
Yeah, and I just don't know what Harry Kane are going to get back, but I really I would like at least one of Kane, Son, or Kulusevski because I just think they're 2 good an attacking trio to leave out.
What's Kulusevski's
Son's
price? You
obviously
have a
going to
look.
be a risk. I mean, he's 11.4 million, so he's premium price, but then he is a midfielder. Um, Kulusevski's quite a nice price, but he's very assist based, isn't he? But maybe I'm just being harsh. I think he's proved how much of a good an option he is when he's fit, and he makes a massive difference to that Tottenham team. I mean, has he only played one game since he's back? Is that right?
So I was just looking at him actually. So he came on as a sub against Liverpool on the 6th of November, got an assist. Then he started against Leeds on the 12th and got an assist. And yeah, so he played a couple of games. Came off the bench and then started the other one. Especially with Richarlison out, I think it's pretty much, well, and he's fit, it's pretty much guaranteed he's going to play.
Yeah, I forgot about Richarlison. They've got some really nice attacking options, haven't they?
Yep.
Which actually might play into Sonny's hands because we all were questioning Sonny as a not as an option, but just his form and stuff. And you think he's just going to explode at some point. That's where my conundrum lies. Is like, where do I go, if any, with Spurs? But I do feel like there's a kind of a big haul there from one of those front three or four, or a couple of big hauls. And I'd like to be on the receiving end of it in a good way. But at the moment, I don't quite know how I'll go there with that. So you thinking, as I say, you thinking a third striker then and leaving out Kane and going with someone else?
Well, I've just stuck him in the draft for the time being. I think just the fact he's on penalties as well. He's always got penalties, hasn't he, to back him up. So, yeah, I think let's go with Kane. And then if we're a bit short for cash based on who else we pick, we might be able to pick another striker. But I'm just not... Let's have a look. I'm massively keen on any of the other strikers in the game.
I really like Callum Wilson. Don't know why we're sort of not... I had him in my initial draft last night. Like, goal every 2 games when he's fit and playing, on penalties, in a good team. Like, the double up with Almiron, I've got no issues with that whatsoever. I mean, if Kieran Trippier got more in the way of bonus, the triple up for Newcastle would be on for sure.
I was going to suggest Trippier as an option for this team, to be honest, regardless of bonus, because he looks really good.
He is, mate. I think he is a good option. I really do.
Should we stick Callum Wilson in then and see what we can do beyond him?
What, instead of Kane?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. So that means we've got Mitrovic, Haaland, and Wilson up front. So what else do we need? What else do we need to cover off then?
So we've got either 2 midfielders or 1 defender, 1 midfielder, and 21.3 million in the bank.
So what would you be thinking now then, looking at that team?
I think Ben's just made a good point about Wilson as well. Sorry, that Isaac's back, so he might share some minutes with Isaac, which is fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could do. I just think Wilson's absolute nailed in that team, isn't he? When he's fit, but that is a problem with Wilson is his fitness, and therefore may share minutes because Howe wants to protect the legs.
I think we have enough cash to go for Cancelo in this team.
Yeah, I think it's a great fullback option and always going to be capable of a haul, isn't he?
So if we go with Cancelo, that leaves us 10.3 in the bank for a midfielder. Or we can upgrade Callum Wilson to Kane and go with another enabler like Polinia or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds... it sounds fine. You can always fall back and change that around at another point.
That's too perfect to be true. We've got exactly the right money for Polinia.
Go for it. Like that. It's good.
I think that's a pretty tasty draft. So I'll read it out to you. Kepa in goal, Cancelo, Reece James, Face from Leicester, Kyle Walker, Salah, Almiron, Polinia, Haaland, Mitrovic, Kane.
That's a hell of a team.
I think that's a pretty good team. I'll lock it in. Got a captain every day, so we're going Salah, James, Haaland. I think that's what we said, wasn't it? There you go. If you want an idea of a team to pick, hopefully that helps you. I think that's a pretty tidy team we got there, mate.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't go. Like there's a couple of single game days further down the line. You could have like a Somerville in there instead of Polinia if you wanted to cover off the Leeds game. There's obviously a couple of options for people there, but I think that's a nice basis or foundation to build from.
Absolutely.
And if Kepa was out, you could just do a bit of tweaking around there. Take take out Kepa for Ward and then change the defense around slightly, something like that. That's always a good option as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I don't think I could handle a Leicester double up
No,
defensively
no,
based
I
on
think
what we've
that's
seen
fair.
under Rodgers.
I think that's fair. Shall we have a look at some Twitter questions?
Yeah.
I'll go back to our first screen. There we go. Just load them up on the old Twitter. 2 seconds. Thank you everyone for sending in a question. Spartans has just asked about Polinia. Do you think he's just a set and forget? I think it's set and forget if you have him. He's absolutely a set and forget. But I think there's probably a case to go without him and pick someone else if you can find value elsewhere. But I think if you get him in your team, you just leave him.
Yeah.
So first question from Keen FPL. Which assets would you look at from the Aston Villa v Leeds game, and is it even worth the transfer? I think we sort of already covered that, didn't we?
Yeah, you've just got to fall on the right side of the luck, haven't you? If you bring in Ings and he gets 2 goals and an assist like he did on that previous game, then you're absolutely laughing. But that's probably not a massive possibility. Again, same as Somerville. Somerville going to be feast or famine. There's Rodrigo that you could go with. Watkins potentially, something in the midfield. Yeah, there's plenty of options there. I think you've got to get a little bit. You've got to have the bravery to make the pick, and then a little bit of luck there. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so I haven't got an answer on that front.
Next question from Trackstar G. What's the lowest rank you can be right now and still win the game? I think it's impossible to say, to be honest.
I really don't know. I was thinking this myself about my position, sort of 5,000. So I was thinking, there's no way I can, even from there. I know towards the end of the season when people have run out of transfers and stuff, it can open up opportunities and stuff. But the game gets so stuck for such long periods of time with obviously the single game days creating quite a heavy template. And you have to get, I think what you'd have to do is you have to take, so like my position at 5,000 or whatever, maybe even slightly higher, maybe 8 or 9,000. You'd have to put in the no-brainer players and you'd have to really get right the other ones, and you'd have to be getting some really nice differential hauls there to jump up the rank, whether that's block defenses or something like that. I just think it's a really hard task if you're outside of the top. What, 2,000 or 3,000? Tom, would you think something like that?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm in 10,000th at the moment. I'm having a horrendous season so far. So yeah, I would say so, mate. I think probably I'd say top 5k. You're in with a chance.
What's the Shall I have a look at the points?
Yeah.
That's often the best gauge, isn't it?
I'll tell you.
And Ian Parrin's absolutely right. You can never have enough transfers. He says that every season, and we think, nah, we can burn through them. You get to the end of the season, and then you realise he's absolutely right because there's opportunities right, left, and centre to make points up. So I think still keeping a sensible head on.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go for it, mate. You've got it up there.
According to Brownie, the guy who won last year was 10k at Christmas.
Wow, was he?
So one to consider. But yeah, top of the list at the moment is a chap named Gordon Dixon. He's got 1,425 points. And
so
I'm on,
he's got 40. Yeah, go. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, go for it.
10,000th, I'm currently on 1,144. So I'm nearly 300 points behind him.
And I'm on 1176. And I'm in 5,800th position. It feels dire, doesn't it?
So between 10 and 5k, it was what, 50 points? Is that 30 or 50 points between us there?
40, 50, 60, 30 points.
30 points for 5,000 places. That's doable in a couple of weeks, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's doable in a week, mate. But then the difference up to first is 300 and something points. But then we don't know how many transfers he's used. And then it goes back to the old adage of what's a transfer worth? Well, if you've got 35 transfers remaining and you nail every single one and get, let's say, an average of 15 points, that's 525 points. I know that's completely and utterly top end, but that's where you're going to have to get a lot right. Like what Brownie said there, with that guy who rose from 10,000s to first, he would have gone on a mega charge after Christmas, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I think like we went Reece James in our draft, didn't we? I think going for someone like that on a split captaincy day could be the way to get yourself up the leaderboard. Those are the
You
like
just
we say, don't we? We said it on pods during the international time as well. But the days where the captaincy really is split, that's the time to go a bit different.
Yeah, you pick the no-brainer players on the no-brainer days, and then when there's that split there, you go for it. I think that's definitely something I've kind of learned. I mean, you can, if you really need to, you can, but I don't think it's in that position at the moment, being only a small percentage through the season. We haven't actually played a hell of a lot of games. I looked back through the actual games played, and it's really actually quite low. So there's no need to panic, probably whatever position you're in. But then you talk to really experienced Sky players, talking to Dave Perrins. Dave's in around the same position as me, and he's saying, look, I really think I need to go different from the off. And obviously Dave was very, very close last year in the run into it, and he's thinking that same way as well. So I think it's balancing out the no-brainer players that need to be picked, the AKA the Haalands, mixing them in with those explosive differentials to get those explosive rank rises. And that's obviously a massive art and a good bit of luck along the way as well.
Yeah, I think
We
that's
didn't even answer the question
smart
there, Tom, have we? But
no, we talked about it though. I think that's absolutely fine.
I mean, if Brownie's point's got anything to go by for the guy that asked the question, that's got to serve as really good motivation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Serves as motivation for me as well. I don't think I'll ever win it, but it'd be nice to get amongst the cash leagues again. So, yeah, hopefully we can kick on for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, you and me both, mate.
It looks like Spartan's asked us another question on Twitter as well. He says, do you favour starting with Liverpool players and moving them on to Man City players for the fixture swing, or just starting with Man City players from the off? It might be worth just flashing up the fixtures.
I saw that question yesterday and had to think about it, and I just thought I'm going to start with City from the off.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, to be honest.
You can just leave them if they're fit. You can leave them all season. It's just a question of how many do you have. You might start with one and then end up at 3 on the fixture run. Was that 2 seasons ago, around that Christmas period, when everyone lumped in on?
Yeah, we had about 5
City,
defenders each, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was basically how many City players you could get in was dictating your rank. I mean, I jumped on really early, and I got a massive. I think at Christmas that season, I was in about 50th position. I had a real big rise purely because I got blanket City defense, couple of midfielders. Like I just jumped on it. I think with City, when you start seeing those signs of real solidarity defensively, that's the time to start to up them. I think Liverpool again. I think Liverpool will probably start. I'm hoping start okay as well, and so there's a rationale potentially to have both Liverpool and City defensive assets if you're that way inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally, I'm not sure I trust Liverpool yet. I think for me, wouldn't be against picking their defenders. I just want to see something from them. I want to see them turn it up a bit defensively because they've just looked all over the place.
So the issue with the Liverpool defence, and this is why I'm steering clear at the moment, is they're very expensive. Van Dijk hasn't been churning out passes religiously, so that's obviously a big, kind of like warning sign. Obviously, the clean sheets haven't been there. But then I think Van Dijk actually was still like one of the higher performing defenders, even when Liverpool were poor. But it still kind of puts me off. And then Robbo and Trent, I want to see a lot more consistency in terms of their attacking outputs, and that clean sheet kind of chance rise up a little bit as well. I think we both started, didn't we, with Alisson last season, and it really didn't pay off, did it?
No. But
so we're a little bit burnt.
I don't think we could have possibly predicted how bad Liverpool started off being. But I think, yeah, the differentiator was how quick you were to get off them, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the one probable Liverpool defender that I go for is Van Dijk, because he has got goal, passing, and clean sheet.
He's still up there with the points, even without the clean sheets, isn't he?
Well, yeah, and that's it. If Liverpool are playing badly and Van Dijk is still churning out decent returns, then you think when Liverpool do return back to some sort of normality and how they can play, that Van Dijk would potentially be a bit of a no-brainer. But at least to start with, like you, Tom, I think I'm just going to see how they kickstart the campaign.
Sounds very sensible. I think that's it for all of our questions, and I think I'm almost out of time, to be honest, before I need to make some lunch as well. So I think we can leave it there, mate, unless you've got anything else you wanted to add.
No, that's cool. I think we covered, at least the first kind of start of the kickstart.
Awesome. Right, we'll leave it there then. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're watching on the stream or watching back, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the Gold or Gold channel, because we'll have plenty more Sky content coming your way for the rest of the season. But until next time, we'll see you later.